Well, I'm Kyle Reardon, and I'm here with Chris Brown and Josh Walker. And we thought that we'd get together and talk about an upcoming concert, Josh, that you are one of the musicians in. But you're also a faculty here, right?
I am indeed.
So what do you teach here?
I'm one of the ones here that does, all that I do is what's considered contemporary guitar. So I don't do any of the classical guitar. My background would be more the contemporary side, the jazz and rock and blues and pretty much anything except for contemporary. Classical.
We had you played in Kicking It with the Masters. You were the jazz guitarist in that performance, and then you have another performance coming up Saturday, November 7th, and it's Electric Miles. So that's obviously Miles Davis. So what's the concept behind the concert?
Well, to me it was the theme of this year's Levine Presents Monuments and Miniatures. To me those two albums, Bitches Brew and A Silent Way, were pretty monumental to me growing up, and I think they probably were to a lot of musicians that kind of deal in contemporary music. A lot of people consider them to be some of the first fusion albums that combined like rock and jazz and eventually maybe funk. And as that band and the permutations of those groups would continue, that it got to be more electronic eventually.
So, Chris, obviously you're a bass player. What do you think, from your perspective, what do you think is it sounds like a stupid question, but obviously switching from an upright bass to an electric bass, I mean, how big is the difference there?
One critic described the birth of 20th century rock music and pop music as being solely driven by the invention of the electric bass, for the main reason that as soon as the bass was amplified to that degree, the whole visceral experience of the concert could be lifted because everything could then be that loud.
Sure.
Up until that point, groups couldn't be really that much louder than the bass player. So as soon as the bass is really forward, really presented assertively, everything else can then sort of go up to another notch. Everything from your 1950s rock and roll, everything through all of the jazz that you're talking about, all the way through to what we have today, is huge.
Like Chris was saying, I mean, the louder the group, the sound impact of the group can be in a bigger room. And a lot of these, I think one of the things what I've read anyway, one of the things Miles wanted to do was play, in the stadiums, like all these rock acts were doing, and he didn't understand why, a musician like Jimi Hendrix was, another African American musician like Jimi Hendrix was experiencing such a high level of turnout for the concerts, and Miles was not reaching that same level of audience. And so I think he was trying to do everything he could to occupy these bigger spaces, and reach a bigger audience. And he saw the electric instrumentation as a potential to do that, but also to reach a different audience probably too.
And he's sort of a classic, iconoclastic kind of musician in that sense that he redefined himself every few years. I mean, all the way through his career, he was constantly going to a new place, losing fans, picking up new ones, defining a new kind of jazz as we might look back and see it, but generally kind of upsetting people.
Mm-hmm.